How did the UK taxpayer end up funding a study titled The Europe That Gay Porn Built 1945 to 2000? Now, if you've seen my work waste before, either on a podcast, you're a subscriber to my Substack, you may know that I often talk about this grant, which is currently underway. And that's because it's just such a great example of colossal waste. 840k on this grant. And the worst thing about it is when you look at the researchers on it, it leads to even more ridiculous studies. One about gay pig masculinities. So let me explain. First of all, this is funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council. It's a subsidiary of UK Research and Innovation, which gets 8 billion a year from taxpayers via the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. AHRC, as I call it for short, completely needs scrapping. I could just write article after article of all the terrible studies it has done. So the Europe That Gay Porn Built 1945 to 2000 is really, even though it's the most shocking to bring out, it's really emblematic of the whole system. The fact is that if you get certain keywords into your research, ones that sound like you're very politically sensitive and helping minorities, even if they're complete BS, you're clearly more likely to get funding. And the whole system, I would say, I'm not talking about this one in particular, but it favours a left-wing bias. Anyway, let's look at some of the other researchers. So the lead researcher, the principal investigator on the Europe That Gay Porn Bill, if you look at his profile, you'll see that he's involved in all sorts of other terrible studies. For instance, gays, women and chainsaws, queer approaches to characterization and identification in contemporary slasher cinema. And I believe he's supervising. You click on the name and it gives you either studies they're working on or supervising. Another one that he appears to have supervised is exploring the sexual play of gay adult video games. And then there's one researcher on the porn study. I know him fairly well because we sort of had this weird exchange on X for a while. He seems to have disappeared now, but he has had over 1 million taxpayer funding in total in terms of working on studies that have been given over 1 million in grants, and it's always from Arts and Humanities Research Council. The worst one I found, other than gay porn in Europe 1945 to 2000, is Masculinity and the Ethics of Porosity in Post-AIDS Gay Porn. It took place at the University of Exeter. It gained £194,183 in funding, and it was about gay pig masculinities. Now, I'm not an expert on this world of discovery, but helpfully they've put some details in. Pig is a term used by some gay men to self-define themselves in terms of their own sexual practices, which they regard as transgressive, pushing the limits of the body and of its integrity through relentless, condomless penetrations, stretching of the rectal sphincter and exchanges of all kinds of bodily fluids, sperm, urine, saliva, etc. What's etc? So all of this, the abstract is on the UKRI government portal. And when people find out about this, they cannot believe it, right? There's, these studies, when you point them out, there's almost, you reach some sort of believability threshold, but it's all hiding in plain sight. And I've been researching this since 2023. And I still get shocked, but it's almost like I desensitized at some point because it was so bad. It's almost like my brain just imploded or something. This is just the norm, okay? There's so many similar studies I found one about pole dancing, a PhD that we funded, by the way. One of the worst things as well about it is the chap who's had over $1 million in funding received indirectly, directly from these studies is Portuguese, but he lives in Sweden. And he's currently doing that while researching gay porn. What he'll say as well, when I point out the amount of funding, is the argument will be, well, we don't get that money ourselves. It goes towards the overall project and universities get a slice. That is very true. The system helps universities generate income because the grant, the universities always get a slice of it for building costs and electricity. And clearly that's how much Birmingham City University needs to facilitate the study of gay porn in Europe. I don't think I have to spell it out. It absolutely stinks. If you want to find out more and depress yourself, you can read my Substack where there's a ton more of this.